Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. I know you're beautiful because you're watching this, so that by definition makes you more beautiful than most others. I'm giving you 2 extra minutes, all right? My clock says 5:58, 2 extra minutes just for you because I looked out on you guys and I was like, they seem cool. They don't seem like douchebags. Please take a minute to share this with folks. Let people know. Not a full minute. Don't get greedy. Take like 20 seconds, okay? Fucking tweet it out, share it. Hello, Ben. Hello, various people. Hello, Rebel Poet. Thank you, Ben, for being the like button police. I think it's getting to the point that I need to pay you or something. I love that you're telling everybody to click the like button because they should. It's the least they can do. No, it's literally the least they can do. The police have a bad name. I won't call you the like button police. You're the like button patrol. It's still bad. Like button, masseuse. Masseurs are good, right? Thank you, Ben, for telling everybody to click the like button. I'm gonna get into the accidental discharge, which is what they're now claiming caused the murder of Dante Wright. Was it yesterday in Minnesota, or I don't know if it happened the day before that, but the protest popped off yesterday, and another unarmed, innocent black man killed in Minnesota. And there's massive protests, as most of you know, and they're saying the cops have now come out and said, yes, it was an accidental discharge, which I thought was only an excuse you could use on porn sets. All right? You cannot, as a police officer, use accidental discharge as the reason you murdered somebody. Sorry, I killed that guy. It was a premature ejaculation. It's really my bad. I just got so excited. Fuck you. So, yes, I agree, Rob. Accidental discharge sounds like something Matt Getz would do, is what he says. So I'm going to get into that. I'm also going to get into the failure at the Amazon plant, the failure to unionize at the Amazon plant in Alabama. I'm going to talk some about that, about what we can learn from it, and about the good news, about why that not the failing of the union, but why there is some positive to take out of it. Jane would like to get on her husband, not get on. Jane would like to insult her husband for his accidental discharge. Thank you, Jane. I'm sure you're lucky you have like a plain last name, so people aren't like, I know that guy. Anyway, so I'm going to get into all of that, and I yet again have failed to go live at Rockfin, but there we go. Now we're live at Rockfin. So we're going to get into those stories. I also was planning, we were going to do a Government Secrets today with Graham Elwood. You guys know Government Secrets. Unfortunately, Graham is moving apartments, and there's internet issues, as there always are. So there's shit going down on that front. But we'll get a Government Secrets to you on Friday, by Friday. Don't worry. The Government Secrets is still coming. So for those of you who are, in fact, the Government Secrets is coming so much, it's an accidental discharge. All right. That's how much we're coming. It's still coming, and it'll be out probably Friday. Plenty of Government Secrets to be revealed there. But let's start with this shooting that took place. Let me see here. I'll show you the New York Times article. Minnesota officer who shot Dante Wright meant to fire the taser. Officials from Brooklyn Center said that the fatal shooting was an accidental discharge and released body camera video of the encounter. So there you go. There's the accidental discharge. Yes, I'm going to get to Alabama in a minute. If you missed the opening. By the way, anybody who donates on the Super Chat or on Venmo at Lee Camp or on Rockfin, all of those are donated. All those go to people in need. We talk a lot about that on the Sunday live streams. So those all go to the Solidarity Fund. I don't keep a penny or a dollar or a nickel or a Bitcoin of those. But anyway, so yet another man killed. And they're like, oh, it was an accident. Well, let's back up a minute here and let's assume it was an accident. Okay, let's assume that this guy literally was reaching for his taser, which I'm not saying you should assume that. Maybe this is just a fucking thing they say when they kill people. I thought I was gonna tase him to death. I'm sorry, I killed him in a different way than I thought. The taser does kill some people, but I thought I was gonna tase him to death. Ended up shooting him to death. I'm very sorry about that. Let's assume that this is true. They accidentally shot him instead of tased him. What we should do is back up a second here and ask, why are there guys with guns tackling this man to begin with? Why are there guys with guns, guys with weapons to kill, running up on this guy in his car, because they thought he looked suspicious? This is, again, an unarmed person. The officers, walked up to his car. One of them fired and said, holy shit, I shot him. I mean, this is not how the system should work. And this discussion largely don't get to that discussion, right? It's largely, they try and make it about one bad apple, or in this case, a new bad apple. This is another bad apple. You got this one. You got Derek Chauvin, another bad apple. And as we mentioned on the other live streams, don't fall for this garbage that's in the George Floyd trial, that it's just Derek Chauvin. He is a fucking awful human being, and that is it. That is all that's wrong with our police system. That is all that has failed us. That is all that oppresses us. That is all that beats us down. It's just this one dude, man. He has been busy. Holy shit. It's just him? Really? It's just him? He is one fucking busy body. He's just a hardworking bad apple. God damn. Most hardworking bad apple this side of the orchard. So don't believe that shit. And I'll show you what Ajamu Baraka, I think I threatened to show this the other night and then I forgot. But let me show you what Ajamu Baraka said. If you don't follow Ajamu Baraka, you absolutely should. I'm having him on this week on the Moment of Clarity, but you absolutely should check out his Twitter feed. He ran for vice president with Jill Stein running as president, so you might remember him from that. But he does great stuff. Anyway, he said, "Don't fall for it. The trial of Derek Chauvin is a setup. It's mass propaganda, a show trial meant to re-legitimize the white supremacist state. Chauvin is the sacrifice to give impression the U.S. system can render justice for colonized black folks. It cannot." So he's saying don't fall for it. And I have to agree. The reason many of the people are coming, many of the police are coming out and testifying against Derek Chauvin is in order to try and re-legitimize the police and try and say that, it's just this one guy. And so they've all turned on him to make him the scapegoat. But in fact, this is our policing across America. This is how you end up with police that kill over 1,000 people a year. Meanwhile, in Britain, the average is like 7. In Germany, the average is like 3. There's countries like Switzerland and Denmark that kill zero people. So the idea that this has to work this way, I mean, this is a fascist state. This is a fascist system. But we have been so socially engineered to just accept the fact, to just be okay with the fact that there are going to be guys with guns on so many street corners, guys with guns patrolling around to see if you look even slightly suspicious. We have come to accept that. Now, I saw this garbage human being is a bit of a stretch. All right, this garbage, he's like the ooze that comes out of like a fish's ass. Greg Gutfeld, who he hosts various things on Fox News. He's just launched what he calls a comedy show, which, as far as I can tell, is him saying the same stupid shit he's always been saying, except now there's like 4 people in an audience in his studio. It doesn't seem any different, but so I might end up doing a segment where I kind of play his clips and tear them apart. But anyway, the reason I bring him up now is because I noticed his thing. He said his little clip about how crime has gone up this year, or in 2020, and it went up the most in blue, or as they like to call them, democratically run cities, as if Republicans play no role in democratically run, democratic cities. Just because you have a Democratic governor or something, like there's no Republicans, there's no right wingers. Actually, the fault of the reason our system is collapsing is because they're all right wingers. They're all, you got light Republican and Republican. That is it. But anyway, so Gutfeld says, the crime went up in 2020. Mainly in these defund the police cities. That's what he calls them, because they dare have protests against the ridiculous, horrific white supremacist police system we have. So he says, the crime went up in the defund the police cities. And I think to a right-wing brain, that makes sense. Like, you defund the police, you end up with more crime. That's how that works. But let's take a step back and recall that. Have the police been defunded? The only one that even did a fake as if they were going to defund some of the police was in Minnesota. So most of these cities across, almost none of them have actually defunded the police. Almost none of the Democrats in Congress have come forward and said therefore defunding or even decreasing the funding of the police. So he's like, in these defunding the police cities, the crime went up. Yet he fails to mention they didn't defund the police. They didn't hardly decrease. They didn't decrease the police. In many of them, the budgets went up. So just because there was a defund the police protest does not mean that happened. Because guess what? When people stand up together and demand something in America, it usually does not happen. It only gets passed through legislatures if it aligns with corporate interests. So just because you saw a protest in a certain city for defund the police does not mean that's the reality now. So, crime goes up. He acts like that has to do with some sort of great, large-scale police defunding that has happened. And I don't just mean him. I mean, right-wingers like to pretend this is going on. When, in fact, that's not going on at all. The cops are getting more money across this country than ever before. There are more cops than ever before. They are more militarized than ever before, even with all these protests. So if you want to look at that reality, then I guess using his logic, we should say crime went up because the police are more funded and more militarized and larger than ever before. They caused it to go up. Now, of course, that's not the truth behind it. Now, cops do cause violence some of the time, but the reality behind why, and I don't even know which numbers he's looking at. So for all I know, he's fucking making up his numbers. But let's say crime did go up. Crime goes up because guess what? People are having a hard fucking time. And when people get desperate, they do desperate things. And so people who normally would not break the laws if their lives were comfortable and they weren't fearing for their security, for their food, for their family, for their housing, if they weren't fearing for those things, then there wouldn't be this crime uptick. So that's the reason crime has gone up. If it's gone up, again, I didn't actually check those numbers, but so he wants to act like it's because there were 12 protests against chanting defund the police. So anyway, yet again, we have another innocent man, Dante Wright. Thank you for the donation. All of the donations go to people in need in our Solidarity Fund, the Common Censored Solidarity Fund. And this is completely false. I am not a millionaire. I'm sorry to let you know. Human love, solidarity. Anyway, so yet another unarmed black man assassinated, basically in the streets of Minnesota, and I mean that. It's like, what more can you say? It's like these cops should not be attacking people. We should rethink policing. I've gone through this many times, so I don't feel the need to go through it a lot right now. But I just wanted to cover that. I just want to get that out there. There are protests going on across the country for this. There might be some in DC tonight. It is feeding off the fury that people have about how our policing works in this country. But I've talked a lot about this, so I want to move on to what went down in Alabama in this massive, much talked about. It's actually not that many people. If you look at the number of workers that are in this one warehouse in Alabama, but it was pointed to as, mainstream media, many others were pointing to it as a sample, as an example of what would happen or could happen with unionizing Amazon. Obviously, one of the largest companies in the world. It's basically a country. I said country, but it's basically a country. So let's see. I want to show you the article I'm going to be referencing for some of this. This is from The Nation. I thought they did a good job. I don't know if you can hear that, but fucking helicopters in D.C. It's like a war zone here half the time because, Joe Biden farts and they have to send in a medevac crew or however it works. But I thought this was a pretty good article from The Nation. Jesus, with the ads. All right, already. So, here we go. So it's a post-mortem on what went down there, and by Jane McAlevey. And she's saying that the warning signs of defeat were everywhere, but it's not just that the warning signs were there. I feel like she does a good job, and the people she talks to do a good job of explaining what went wrong and how to fix this stuff in the future, how to have a more successful campaign to unionize, because Amazon, treats their workers like garbage, treats their workers like a canister of piss, don't they? It's just like a canister of piss, because that is what people have to do, right? They have to pee in fucking bottles in order to do their job, because every time they take a break, they're either looked down upon by their bosses, or they're sometimes they've got a fucking tracking bracelet that starts beeping at them. You've been pissing for 30 seconds. What the fuck's the matter with you? So it's very stressful. So many of them are, yes, peeing in bottles. The drivers are. Many of them in the warehouses, at least some have brought forward that they wear diapers because it's the only way they can successfully get everything done that they're expected to get done. I mean, these people are treated like straight up garbage. And so the only way to stop this would be a union. And I am one of the few who will talk to you about the fact that beyond this, if we can keep evolving beyond just unions and workers, etc., we should all be working a lot less. We now live in a post-scarcity world if we really wanted to. There should be enough of a comfortable living for almost everybody. I mean, really for everybody. And you should be able to work far less than people do nowadays. So that'd be the evolved, we're no longer chimpanzees kind of world. But we're not there yet. So while we're down here in the fucking, dung beetle, let's work on rolling better dung balls so we can get them back to our nest kind of mentality. As long as we're living down there, we might as well try and get the best treatment possible for these workers, which could also involve working less. And people have to work less often if they're paid more, which can also come about by unions. So in that effort, I wanted to make that clear because I don't want to fall into the discussion that all of these other mainstream outlets fall into, which is let's just talk about how to work more, but you're going to enjoy it. There'll be more of a smile on your face. Sure, you'll be working 19 hours a day, but you'll be enjoying it. Because that seems to be where the discussion is, even for people that are saying, yes, we need unions, we need strong unions, those kind of things. They never have the discussion, let's get to a place where people are working far less, where you could pursue your life, your passion, your goals. That is where we need to be. And, I think that needs to be topic one. But okay. So we've accepted that we're apparently not capable of having that discussion in this country. So let's talk about how to get people as workers across this country treated better. And the key is going to be strong unions. Corporate America has spent fucking years, decades, generations gutting unions, destroying them, villainizing them, doing everything they can to make sure that workers don't have rights, don't have decent wages, don't have health care, don't have benefits. And so now is the time to fight back, as we're seeing. There is, well, let me just read a quote from the article. Support for unions today is at record highs, and support for big business is at historic lows. Sadly, popular support for any proposal has little, if nothing, to do with legislation getting approved by Congress. Again, my favorite study, the Princeton study, showing that it doesn't matter what the American people want. If it doesn't align with corporate America, then it will not get through. So that's what she's referencing yet again, that what Americans want, little or nothing to do with what actually gets done. So that means you have to do it individually. You have to do it in your communities. You have to do it in your businesses. You have to do it in your companies. That's where you have to do it. That's where you have to have these fights, because having them on the federal level, sitting here and talking all day about what some fucking congressperson said, doesn't matter. You've already lost. If that's how you're spending your whole day. So here are some of the signs, she said, that showed that. Oh, and by the way, I suppose I buried the lead here. For those of you who don't know, the Amazon workers who wanted a union lost the vote that happened in Alabama, the Bessemer plant, the warehouse that everyone's been talking about. Now, there are lots of questions about what went on. So much shit and rigging and all this shit went on. Things like forcing the employees to deliver their vote to the where they work, to the warehouse, rather than putting them in the mailbox, which should be fine. But Amazon didn't want that, because if they deliver them at the warehouse, they've got to go in front of their boss, and yeah, they're not holding up what their vote is, but still it's a form of intimidation. And anyway, it's a million things like that. We'll get into actually some more of the trickery that Amazon used in order to win this vote. But whatever the rigging, it doesn't matter. That's the vote is now done, and the workers have lost. 1 second. So, well, the union, the workers who are pro-union have lost. And so you have to go through like why, even with the rigging, even with Amazon's what they've done. Why did this lose when it had so much support? It had so much popular support. It was talked about across the nation, which is an incredible positive to take out of this. The fact that everyone's talking about it, everyone's excited about this, everyone understands that workers need better rights, that workers shouldn't be fucking flesh bags with fucking shock collars around their neck that wander through warehouses, and if they go too slow, they get zapped. That's not really happening, but we're close. I just did a segment on how Amazon's collecting biometric data on their drivers, like facial recognition and all this shit, so that they can see whether you pissed into a bottle while you were driving for them, or, you know, whatever you're doing. Anyway, here she goes, are the reasons that, here are the signs and hashtag signs/reasons that this vote was going to be lost by the pro-union workers. There were inaccurate lists of workers from the beginning, which shows that the union effort had not done a good job of really analyzing what it was they were up against. She says, from the get-go, the campaign in Bessemer had what many experienced organizers recognized as nearly fatal flaws. The first of these was a widely inaccurate assumption about how many employees worked in the warehouse. The Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, that's the one they were hoping to join, RWDSU, also pronounced RWDSU. Listen, RWDSU Union is one of my favorites. I feel like they've done beautiful stuff. I mean, honestly, every time you see like a job where you're like, that seems like a really cool job, and like people are getting paid well and stuff like that, I always say, well, you can thank RWDSU. So RWDSU assumed that there were 1,500 workers at the warehouse not long after the RWDSU filed. Amazon responded to the NLRB, also pronounced NLRB, that there were approximately 5,800 workers in the warehouse. So they assumed that there were 1,500, and there were actually 5,800, which sounds like they haven't really done their homework on the workers in the. So I'm adding this part. She didn't say this, but step one, know what the fuck you're up against. Know how many workers are there. Know how many likely proponents of union you have. Know how many you do. How many you have doing this job or that job. You know how many are getting paid well. How many are getting flyingly fucked. Maybe everyone at Amazon is getting flyingly fucked. I don't know, but so here's the next step or sign that things were not going well. Handling discussions about union dues. They were not doing a good job of that. The next warning sign came in February when Amazon launched doitwithoutdues.com. Now, I made fun of this at the time. Many people did. I don't know if you remember this, but Amazon created a site, it may still be up, called Do It Without Dues. Basically, telling their workers to try. Just think about the concept of this. Even if you aren't making fun of how terrible everyone's treated, the concept of this is a business, a corporation saying, hey guys, you can try desperately to get treated right without dues. What about that? Hey guys, why don't you try a little to have us not make you piss in fucking bottles without dues? Like, just the concept of this site and this idea is amazing. I mean, because it's basically acknowledging that they treat their workers like shit. Because they're like, listen, you could probably get us to change a little without a union. We treat you like shit, but maybe we wouldn't if you fought back better without a union. So anyway, it was called doitwithoutdues.com. And their goal was to remind all the workers, hey, if you have a union, you're going to have to pay dues. Ew. Which, by the way, is hilarious because generally everywhere that has a union, the workers are paid better. So if you're paid better because you have a union, but you pay some dues to the union, but they're far less than the better pay you're getting, you still win. You see how that math works? So you get $5,000, let's say, more dollars a year, but you're paying, I don't know what dues are, but let's say a few $100s to the union. You're still up $4,500. Sounds pretty good. I'm just making up those numbers, but you get the point that the math still benefits the workers. Okay, so doitwithoutdues.com, a website describing all the things workers could do with the money they would otherwise pay in dues to a union. Amazon concurrently posted a hashtag on Twitter. The ploy backfired, and this is what I mentioned, that a lot of people were making fun of it. So the ploy backfired in that it went viral as a thing to make fun of because everyone was trashing this whole anti-union push by Amazon. Pro-union activists around the country took to the platform to tweet one clever response after another. But here's the but. Even though that went viral, which was good for the pro-union push, the pro-union people and the union that was helping organize it, their response was to say, no, you don't have to pay dues. Because Alabama has laws saying that unions can't collect dues, because that's one of the things that the right wing has done to crush unions. Because guess what? Organizing, a union, like what unions do, does take some money. Like they have to have employees and shit to work for the union. But so it does take some money. So they need money to operate. Also, campaigns like this take a lot of money, right? Advertising and billboards and contacting people and all that shit. It takes money. Especially when you're up against one of the largest corporations in the world. So what these states, these right to work states, which is really right to work for less or right to be abused states, what they've done is they made it so that you don't have to pay dues to a union. If you're in a union, it is illegal for that union, in some states, illegal for that union to force you to pay dues. They ask you voluntarily to pay dues. So the response of the union in Alabama to this Do It Without Dues campaign was to say, no, you don't have to pay dues, which this journalist makes the point that that's a terrible response. Instead, the response should be, look how much paying a little bit of dues will get you. Because yelling you don't have to pay dues, it already puts you on the back foot, because it already says, no, don't worry. We're gonna try and take money from you, but you don't really have to pay. It's a terrible response. because it doesn't make the worker excited to be a part of this thing. It doesn't remind them that they're going to be getting a lot of important good things, benefits to their life if they're in this union. Instead, it's just like, no, we can't force you to pay dues. So bad ploy on that. So then another one was that this Nation article is putting forward is that the plant gate was one of the focuses. Now, you might have heard this. This story also went viral, that Amazon got the city to change the speed of the stoplight at the plant because they're so big. You know, when you have thousands of workers coming in, they have their own stoplight. And so they got the city to speed up the stoplight because the union organizers were talking to people in their cars at the stoplight. So as this article says, experienced organizers knew that's a bad sign that these union organizers are talking to the workers mainly at the gates of the factory, at the gates of the warehouse. Because guess what? Amazon is one of the largest surveillance companies in the world. That's what it does. It specializes in surveillance. I just covered their biometric surveillance of drivers. So if you're a worker and you're scared of the Amazon overlords, how much do you think you're really going to engage in front of the fucking warehouse? Not much. You're going to be like, ah! So yeah, as you hear the facial recognition AI click through, click, 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 click. Welcome, Lee. It like knows your fucking name, and then you got a union organizer tapping on your window. Hi, we'd like to talk to you about the union, and you're like, ah. So fucking dystopian hellhole. Anyway, the article goes on to say that good organizers, good worker organizers, and union organizers know that you've got to go door to door. They claimed they weren't going door to door because of COVID, but you know, now that we know more about COVID, they could have worn a mask, stayed 6 or 10 feet apart, knocked on the door, backed up, had a conversation in person, and they wouldn't have been risking anybody's safety. And the article argues that that's what had to be done. Like, these people needed to be spoken to at their homes. And of course, if they're like, look, I'm not talking to you, then fine. Oh, well, you tried. But if they're willing to have a conversation of what the union would do for them, that's the way to do it, not when they're sitting at a stoplight in front of the Amazon warehouse. Okay, so another one, and I just have a couple more here. By the way, all the donations, if you're donating, and you can also donate, if you're watching this later, not live, you can donate on Venmo at Lee Camp. You can also do it while it's live. And all of those donations, all of the Super Chat donations, all of the Rockfin donations, they all go to help those in need. And if you are someone in need where 80 or we're not talking thousands of dollars, but where $80 or $100 would make a big difference for you, then email commoncensored@protonmail.com. That's how you can apply for that. commoncensored@protonmail.com. So far, we've basically had enough to give back to everybody who contacts us. So we're hoping to keep doing that. Okay, so the article continues. The absence of majority support. So this is a quote, one of the most important tactics in hard unionization fights is what organizers call majority public structure tests. A majority public structure test is when a majority of I've said majority too many times, is when a majority of workers who are eligible to vote in an upcoming union election or who are voting to strike sign a petition or take photos and produce a public, keyword public, poster, flyer, or website that displays their signatures or their faces with a message stating their intent to vote yes. Now, they did not do this in Bessemer. They did not show this majority support. They didn't have up posters that showed pictures of the people that were supporting a union. They said the reason was that they were afraid that Amazon would retaliate, whether it's illegal or not. They didn't want to threaten people's jobs or make them nervous. But the truth is that the people organizing a union, it's always going to be a little threatening. It's always going to be a little scary. I'm not telling people to risk their job. I don't. I think it's up to you as to whether you make that choice. But anybody who's creating a union is going to have some risks, and they're going to need a certain number of people with them that are willing to take those risks to fight for a better life, to fight for a better job, to fight for a better corporation. And of course, then evolve to a place where we don't have corporations, but that's the evolved brain I was talking about earlier. That's not we're right now talking about the mainstream conversation. If you want to dig down a little deeper, none of us should really be working. But anyway, so the idea that, we didn't want to threaten people's jobs or whatever, it's like, look, you decided that you had a shot of doing this, organizing a union. If you decided that and you had a group of people that decided that, then the fight is on. You gotta be able to have some people be public, because otherwise it's just a bunch of mumbling in the background about, I don't know, and people don't actually know who supports it, and then they get nervous, and then they start to think maybe they could know I voted for a union and fire me, and you need that public support. So I think this is a great point from the article. All right, a couple more things. They were late to the game to contact the local community groups. In Bessemer, local community groups that I reached by phone, the journalist, told me that this was the first union campaign they could remember when the union reached out for the first time so late in the campaign, as late as February, meaning these union organizers needed to reach out to the community earlier. They needed to reach out to people who support workers in this community earlier, because apparently there's a lot. Also, apparently the workers in this plant and in this town are largely a large percentage Black people. It's mostly Black and people of color working at this plant, and so there's a lot of activism on that front in that community, and so they needed to reach out to community leaders far earlier. They waited too long, apparently, and that could have made a big difference. And here's the conclusion from the article. Every worker in the Bessemer campaign deserved to win. And if the rules for unionization in the U.S. came close to being fair, they would have won. But the rules aren't fair. Quite the opposite. They are outrageously unfair. What workers trying to form unions against immoral employers do deserve is the kind of effort that stands a chance of winning. There's plenty of evidence of what works. Social media and shortcut digital approaches don't work when fear and division is the central weapon. Workers can win unions, and workers can strike and win. It is hard as hell, and to do that requires a no shortcuts approach. I think that's all great points. And, it brings up the need for us to work together, to work collectively. If you hear of a company in your area that is fighting to unionize, there's ways to support them. There's ways to go out and help them. If you hear of a company in your area that's striking, there's ways to help them get the benefits they deserve. And if we fucking join together, man, then we'd be unstoppable. It really is true. The people united can never be defeated. The problem is the uniting. That's the hard part for a lot of us. We've all been atomized, dissected, separated, chopped up into little tiny groups and pieces. We've been told to fight with each other, bicker within our own groups, call everybody out as a fucking con artist. And, yes, there are monsters out there like Greg Gutfeld. And I will call them out, but there's a lot of people that should be united, that should be fighting for a better world, for a better lives. And that it doesn't need to be your company. You don't need to be working there to help out and support them. There are many ways to do that. And it sounds like one of the things that failed in Bessemer was reaching out to the community as a whole sooner and getting people to unite in helping these workers create a union so that they could fight back against one of the most powerful, most disgusting corporations in the goddamn world. But then again, you also have to acknowledge what these workers are up against. They are up against one of the most powerful corporations in the world that has the most powerful friends in the world. This is a company that owns the Washington Post. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. He also has billion-dollar deals with the CIA and the deep state. So you don't think he has a couple of buddies he can call in a few favors? This fight against corporate America, against these fascist thugs, is not a light one. It's not a small one. It's not going to be easy, and you can't win it with a couple of clever tweets. So that's I think a great point that this article makes. So I'm getting out of here in a second. Let's see if I see any comments real quick. But yeah, I mean, Ryan saying the workers voted against themselves, but it comes down to education. Some of them have not been educated correctly on what unions could do for them. They've just been told, they're going to collect dues from you. So it's like, it comes down to the knowledge that people have. It also comes down to fear. A lot of people are scared for their job because they've been, they're lucky to have a job at all. They're worried about feeding their families, and they're worried that if they create a union, that'll somehow mean that they get fired or something. So it's understandable. There's a lot of fear, and Amazon's playing into that fear. Let's see. I agree, Ben. We need global workers' movements, and we need to stand up with workers around the world. Like I did coverage of the largest strike, the largest worker strike ever in humanity that happened in India. It was getting very little media coverage here in the United States, and we should be fighting with them. We should be standing up with them rather than just being like, it's a separate country. They don't matter. But yes, let's keep the fight alive. Yeah, I mean, this should be, these union efforts should be done in many states, not just in Alabama, obviously. Yeah, I mean, the lack of media coverage about workers fighting back is it's on purpose. It's designed that way on purpose because they're worried that it could go viral. It could be contagious. It could be like fucking COVID-19, before you know it, everyone's got it. They're all fighting back. They're all standing up and joining together. Yeah, by the way, speaking of Monsanto, Biden wants to restart the program in Colombia where they dump glyphosate all over their country in order to apparently give their people cancer. That's as far as I can tell, that's Biden's goal. Yeah, Oz Whistles makes a good point. I'm constantly amazed at the abusive attitude American companies have toward their employees. I assume the old slavery thing is still an influence. Well, it's because they are disgusted by their own employees. They only see the employees as a means to an end. It is just, how much of your life can I extract in order to create my product? How much can I suck out of you in order to achieve my ends and enrich me? They don't think beyond that. There is no consideration of workers beyond that. And they ideally for them, they extract what they can and they pump you out. They shit you out. We are viewed similar to like burning gasoline. It's you put the workers into the warehouse, they're burned, and then you fucking flush them out and you get new ones in there. So that's how these corporate owners view the average workers, because corporations are a totalitarian structure. We need democracy in the workplace. We need the workers to have a vote on everything. And if there were democracy in the workplace, you'd see a very different America. You'd see workers with rights and leisure time and medical care and paid appropriately. And it would be, their jobs would be secure. It would be a completely different world if we had democracy in the workplace. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up. But for those of you who donated, all the donations are going to those in need. If you need a little help, email commonsensor to protonmail.com. And I have 3 podcasts. There's Government Secrets with Graham Elwood, Common Censored with Eleanor Goldfield, and Moment of Clarity. If you miss any of these, check out leecamp.com. And, lastly, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to liberapay.com/LeeCamp, LIBERAPAY.com/LeeCamp. Unlike Patreon, they do not take a cut. All right, guys. Thanks so much.